Ladies and gentlemen, it's a Thursday night. It's 9 p.m. In fact, it's February 11th, 2021, and this is Crawlspace Live. I'm Tim, here today with Lance. As always, Lance, how's it going?
Oh, I'm a little distracted because the sounds of the church bells chiming from my quiet little hamlet community are ringing loudly from the hills. It's 9 o'clock on a Thursday. Get vocal.
It sure is.
With a K and an L.
And if you're watching this on Facebook, on Twitter, if you're watching it on the YouTube, why don't you click the little link that's associated with where you're watching it and toggle your butt on over to Get Vocal.
There's no reason why you shouldn't. There's no reason why. You're over there, we're over here. It's one little click.
You know, the reality is it's just too hard to check 4 different spots for comments. We want to interact with the people who are asking comments, who are asking questions, have comments about the conversation. So please come here and do that because it's too much. It's too much.
What are we, air traffic controllers? We're supposed to have 15 screens in front of us? Are planes going to collide?
Well, I hope not. Well,
I always look down at how long we go for the intro on my Zoom, how long we're recording, and it gets incrementally longer every week.
It is a very fun moment of the week. Michelle's really worried about us.
You worry about yourself.
We do want to remind everyone to make sure to check out the Lovers Lane Murders television special that is airing on Oxygen as we speak. And if you got to bail on this, I mean, I guess you got to bail on it right now to watch that, but it is running on Oxygen all weekend. So you can catch a rerun or DVR it. I mean, make sure to DVR it. I mean, preferably watch it twice. But the second part is going to air tomorrow night at 9 p.m., I believe, Eastern, or I saw Central on some of the promotional cards as well. So I'm not really sure, but check your local listings. Lovers Lane Murders.
Open up your TV guide.
Look, Bill and Kristen, Papa Bill and Kristen from Mind Over Murder on the Crawlspace Network. They're on TV right now.
They're famous. They're famous now.
They're famous.
What Crawlspace Network is sort of like. It's sort of like Saturday Night Live. Like you're on, then you just catapult. You catapult into superstardom.
Well, also check out Mind Over Murder because that is a great podcast that's been running for about a year now. And Bill and Kristen are on that as well as on the TV show. So
taking over.
Very good. And now make sure to check out our Missing feed. Lance, we released a new trailer today. We're really pushing Missing. We're really pushing it. We have a new series on Phoenix Colden. Of course, we're still hip deep in the Archer Ray Johnson series, which we're going to get to in just a few minutes. But make sure you check out these episodes. These are great episodes. I really feel like we're turning a corner with Missing and with our affiliation with PIs for the Miss.
For sure, right? We have Archer Ray Johnson. We have Erica Franelich. We have Phoenix Colden. And we've got a bunch in the hopper as well. These are the ones that are out in the public eye or in the public ears, if you will, because PIs for the Missing, the nonprofit, is constantly putting together documents for us to look at. We take these missing persons and then we get them on air. We try to talk to the family. We try to talk to investigators. And of course, our research staff, Jenna Mell, who will be jumping on here tonight as well, puts together a great team. Michelle, Jillian, they work with all the volunteers. It's really something that I remember like a few months ago, we were saying, oh man, it just feels like something needs to click because it's not, like we see where it wants to be. Well, something clicked in the past couple of weeks because now it's like cruising. And there's just a couple of things that just need to come together. It's always a work in progress, but ultimately the message is out there. You have a missing person, someone who is in your family, a friend, anybody who you care about. Email us and we get it going. We'll talk about it on air. We'll raise awareness and things start happening. And you'll find that out when we talk to Taylor tonight and Jen tonight. And I don't know, is Nikki joining us tonight as well?
I believe so. I believe I noticed she created a Get Vocal account. I'm not sure if she's in the chat room here tonight, but it sounds like she is, says Taylor Johnson.
Great.
It is great. And Jason Watts is mentioning next week's episode. And that is another new case for PIs for the Missing that is coming up next week. Jason Watts is on that episode with Chief Lou, which is really just his nickname. It's an affectionate nickname at this point because that's his email address, and he's a former chief, but he is not a current chief. He's a PI with PIs for the Missing, Lance, and we're talking about the disappearance of Samantha Tapp. Next week with Jason Watts. So that will be pretty good.
Oh, it's going to be an important conversation. I think it's very important for the listeners to hear us get sort of it's hard to describe. You have to workshop it all, right? You have to get it all out there. You have to talk through something, and some parts of the conversation are a little difficult because you're trying to figure out what it is in the first place. So it's really getting right to the ground floor with the investigators, right? It's like the information is so new to them, and so in development, in their notes as they're putting it together. So
we're learning on the fly.
Yeah, and I think it's important to look in, like, kind of peek behind the curtain.
Yeah, and I think that case, the Samantha Tapp case and Phoenix Colden's case, are maybe slightly different than any other case we've really ever covered in depth before, Lance, because I think those ones in particular have aspects where there are a lot of people who believe those people are still alive out there and willingly living. And I don't know. I don't have a theory on any of those cases at this point, but we will get into it the further we go in these series. So I don't know.
Yeah. No, you're absolutely right, and we'll get Nikki and Taylor and Jen on in just a second. But it will be a really interesting moment if these people are found alive. These are adults that chose to walk away from their lives. If they are found alive and well and living a life, it was by their own choice. So we're going to have to figure out what we do at that point. How do you communicate that to people who have devoted their time and energy into looking for these people because they want to help the family? So that introduces a whole new element to PIs for the Missing. There has to be some sort of outreach, some sort of liaison between family, missing, and the listeners, the contributors, and those who have dedicated their own time to try to piece this together. Because they're good people. Everyone who works with us, great people. The volunteers are great people, and they deserve to know when something has come to a conclusion.
Right. And the Wylands, who are the private investigators who are assigned to Phoenix Colden's case for PIs for the Missing, this is their second case that they've taken on for PIs for the Missing. We didn't get to the point where we do an episode on the first case because they found the person that quickly. That's the truth. That's what happened.
We told them we needed the ratings, and they were like, we're not doing it for ratings, guys. And we were like, ratings.
They're like, we were like, you gotta draw this out a little bit. Come on, the drama. They're like, sorry, not how we do things.
I saw the word bootylicious in association with Jason Watts in the message area and realized no one's listening to us.
That's fine. It's
totally fine.
That's fine. As long as you listen, just listen and share and talk about the cases, talk about the stories. We really appreciate that. Okay. So we've opened up the boxes here, Lance. Let's see. We've got Taylor in there. We've got Nikki in there. We've got Jen in there. So feel free to grab this spot. And some background on Archer Ray Johnson. He was last seen with his brother Earl in Brooklyn, Washington on April 1st, 1986. So this case is not new. But if you do have any information, please contact the Grays Harbor County Sheriff's Office at 360-249-3711. And welcome, Nikki and Taylor Johnson. How are you tonight?
Hello. Good. How are you?
Really good. Yeah.
Great. I'm doing well. Yeah. How you doing, Jen?
Super well. You guys?
Jen with the sporty coat. Always with the sporty coat.
You like it? Houndstooth.
I know. God, the houndstooth. Welcome. Oh,
Hey,
Nikki.
Nikki. Taylor.
Taylor,
Hi.
look at you guys. You guys are looking great. Thanks for joining us.
You too, Lance. You're looking very spiffy in your bee hat.
Oh, stop. But why don't Nikki, Taylor, introduce yourselves to the fine crowd we have here tonight. All of them are very committed to answers and some sort of resolution. I know that's such a terrible. I think that's such a terrible, like, kind of a weak word to use when you're talking about a family member who's missing, because I don't know if there is actual resolution. But you know what I'm trying to get at. Everyone in this room wants to help you. So introduce yourselves and yeah.
Oh, my name's Nikki Johnson, and I'm Archer's daughter. I was 10 at the time of his disappearance. I'm Taylor, and I am his granddaughter.
Jen Mel, just want to introduce you real quick because you have a really important role with Crawlspace Media and with private investigations for the missing. So can you explain a little bit? And also, I just want to give a shout out to Jillian too. I believe Jillian forwarded this the story of Archer Ray Johnson to us in the first place. That was the first time we ever heard of the case and said this would be great for the podcast. And we sent that to Jen, and then I believe you connected. So if you don't mind, take us through that a little bit.
Yeah, sure. So Michelle and Jillian are definitely at the front line of PIs for the missing. They're the ones that triage all our emails, which is a full-time job in itself. But they picked out Archer Ray Johnson's case and put it in front of my eyes. And I run what's become a kind of research department with PIs for the missing. We have 3 volunteers now that conduct research for the show to contribute to the podcasts on missing. And I connected with Nikki and Taylor about Archer Johnson's case. And we've been in pretty frequent contact in the last month or two, wouldn't you say?
Sure. Yes.
Yeah, so it's been an absolute pleasure trying to, I guess, help you guys along in your journey. And like everyone here, I really hope you guys get closure in this case.
And it's a sort of an unusual person story that we follow, because, especially when we're talking with family members, because you were only, did you say you were 10 years old, right? When you found out that your father was missing, and Taylor, you never met him, and you have picked up sort of the baton and you're running with it now to get these answers. Can you take us back a little bit to, I guess, as far back as you want? Nikki, you have a really amazing story about being in the dentist chair. Like, no one likes going to the dentist anyway. And now you have this on top of it. Do you mind going back to that moment and telling us about that?
I was, well, like I said, 10 years old at the local dentist. We live in a small town. My teenage brother, I don't know how much older than he is, maybe he was 16. My mom was working, so we went to the dentist. And I was actually in the dentist's chair, and the local radio station came on and said, there's a search underway for a local man, Archer Ray Johnson, missing. And that name struck me because that was my dad's name, and it's not a name you hear a lot, and in a small town. And, I went from being terrified of the dentist to, all the emotions going through your brain. And at 10 years old, so then went home, and then my mom sat me down to tell me. But, so I've always had a fear of the dentist.
Is that a memory that you needed to have? Like, have you always had that memory, or at some point did it come back to you and you remembered, oh my goodness, I was 10 years old, or has it always been there?
Always been there. Even to this day, when I drive by that office, it's just still a dentist office. I still think about it, and it's just, I shouldn't have found out that way, really, but
yeah.
No, the police should have come to you.
Yeah, absolutely.
Did they?
Well, my mom worked at the water department, and the police department was in there. So I think they contacted her, and then she had no way of knowing that I would have found out that way.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, it's always been something that stuck out because I shouldn't have found out that way. But it is.
I can't even imagine what it was like trying to process that news originally. It couldn't have made sense to you.
No, it didn't, because it was almost like, did I hear that? But then, I knew he was a woodsman, and then there wasn't anybody else by that name. And I think it was more of shock at first. And then it took a while to process, and I even think I had my appointment before my brother, so we took turns, and I went out and waited, and I don't think I even said anything to him either. I don't know if he heard it or must not have, but yeah, it's just a weird situation.
And how many days after Archer's disappearance did you hear this on the radio?
I believe it was the day after, so April 2nd.
That's interesting. So I feel like that's a pretty good sign, though. Going back to that time in 1986, you feel like that would be, if it's only taken a day before someone hits the news to be, publicly declared missing, that feels a little unusual to me. But maybe I'm wrong. I guess my long-winded way of asking you, was this a small community? Did news travel fast and this became big news because it was just something that happened in an area where things like this don't happen?
I think so. And I think it's probably at the time that was like the only radio station. So maybe they were able to get it out right away. I'm not really sure,
Well, they did the initial search pretty late at night. After the night that Archer went missing, I think is when Earl and Rosa, Earl is Archer's brother and Rosa was his girlfriend at the time. They didn't notify the police until much later. And then they got out there, around 10 o'clock at night?
Mm-hmm.
Something like that. I just want to take a moment and really celebrate Taylor right now. She has done such a fantastic job, getting the police's attention. She has been tireless in her pursuit to acquire the case files and all documents concerning Archer's case, and she has not let it go. And do you guys want to talk a little bit about what's been happening with the police recently? I mean, not any details, but...
Yeah, we've been trying since maybe August and have been completely unsuccessful, but we just reached out to the actual detective who has the case, and we're in contact with him, and it's looking really promising.
Yeah, it's now completely reopened, right?
Yeah.
The department. That's no small feat, guys.
I know.
That's really, really incredible.
I'm just amazed at her because she's done it all.
What was it that I don't want to jump too far from the details, but this is also something that we, like Jen said, we need to celebrate this. We need to appreciate this. What was it that sparked you, Taylor, to say this is going to be my thing now?
I don't know. It's always been on my mind, but I think seeing how much it bothers my mom and that no one else has helped, and I'm just no one else is doing anything, so I'm going to.
And you know what? It's okay to say you don't know. It's okay to say that something was just kind of in there growing and slowly eating away, and then finally something triggered it, and now that's what you're doing. Did you ever think that would be something that you were good at? Because I mean, we've been doing this for a long time, and I would never think that I would never have the confidence to contact law enforcement. I'd stutter through the whole thing.
Yeah, I'm not really I'm the typical introvert, so this is totally outside of my comfort zone. And I think I just want to almost prove everyone wrong, I guess, in a way.
Well, cool. That's really inspiring to hear, honestly, and that this case is sort of, I don't know if unofficially reopened or officially reopened or whatever is the right terminology, but that's huge. And I don't know. I just want to echo what Jen said, and really make a big deal out of it, because that was very good news for us to hear when we heard that. We were doing fist pumps, big smiles too, and really it's all because of you guys and your determination to make that happen. So well done.
Her.
Yeah, incredible tenacity. And Taylor, what did you do for your birthday?
I just wanted to go out to the property and talk to the new owners and feel them out for a search, maybe.
It's incredible.
That's awesome. That's what you did for your birthday. I want to get to that experience, but I want to back up real quick and recognize that the two of you seem to have a very good relationship. So my question is sort of two-parted. Is the relationship that strong because of that loss that happened with Archer? And how was it affecting your mom? Because you said you looked into this because you saw how it was affecting your mom. So that's my two-part question.
Well, I would say we are close for a couple different reasons. One, her dad's not around, so it's been the two of us, been a single mom. So that's made us closer. And then we've not only gone through that loss, but we went through loss of a little one that we were going to adopt. So I think that's made us stronger. It's made her, I don't know if tougher is the word, because people say, oh, she's quiet. And I'm just like, no, she's not. But in certain situations, in a lot of situations, she is. But I think that has made us grow closer and complement each other. Because like sometimes I'm just like, I don't even know what to say. And she'll just say what I should say. I'm just absolutely 100% so proud of her. I mean, to me, it just blows my mind that we're where we're at right now in this. Because it's all my life, pretty much, I've lived with, nobody knows, nobody really was looking. So, but you guys have helped a lot too. I will say that.
Oh,
that was such a great answer. I forgot the second question, the second part of that.
Yeah, what was the second one?
What was the second one? Yeah, that was such a great answer. What was the second? Oh, how is it affecting Taylor? How was it affecting your mom? You said you started it because you saw how it was affecting her.
I think she's just kind of, in her mind, thought she's never going to get any answers. And so I thought I needed to be her voice with this. Yeah.
That makes sense.
Yeah, I would have to imagine it's quite an emotional torch to bear for Nikki, and I think Taylor being sort of that generation removed, that could possibly help too, kind of create a little buffer there in which it feels it doesn't have that same sort of drain of energy to push. But it is impressive, and that answer is really sweet. That you did really doing it for your mom. I think that's incredible.
So,
and yeah, sorry, I was going to ask, what happened when you spoke to the owners on your birthday?
They had heard the story, and they knew about my grandpa and all of that. They didn't completely agree to a search or anything, but they were definitely open to the idea, and they were really nice.
What property was this? Take us back a little bit to why you even decided that this was going to be the property that you approached.
This was Rosa, Earl's girlfriend's old property. Everything just seems to kind of tie back to them. It was the last people who actually ever saw him.
in the last place he was seen before his truck was found.
Yeah, do you guys want to like take us through that day just to give a little background?
The day of his disappearance?
Yeah. Where was he and like why was he with Earl?
Yeah, so Archer and Earl were together out cutting firewood, and we're back at Rosa's property. And Archer left to go home, and Earl and Rosa left like 20 minutes later, maybe, down the same road, and they came upon his truck, and he wasn't there.
And the door was open, keys in the ignition, like he just vanished.
Okay, and again, we spoke about the community and how small it is. The geography of the area is what? Is it heavily wooded? You said that they were cutting wood. He was a did you say he was like a forest man? What was going on in the community? Was this the primary occupation that people had? A lot of hands-on, sort of blue-collar type work?
Definitely, the only word I can think of is the boonies. Most of it was gravel, a logging road, and there was lots of trees, but since his disappearance, a lot of it has been logged. And a lot of the road just goes miles and miles of gravel and not a lot out there. I don't know what the population is out there, but is it
Small.
like 300 maybe? It's small. I mean, we live in a small town in Raymond, but this is like a lot smaller.
Right. What did it make sense that his truck would be there?
Not really, no.
Yeah.
Earl tried to say that maybe he stopped to cut wood, but the door being open and the keys in the truck don't make any sense with that idea.
Yeah, because it's a really narrow road too, so why would you leave the door open?
Right. I guess what I was wondering too, a similar question, Lance, is like, is that a road that he would travel frequently? Is there like a destination at the end of it, or some reason he would be on that road?
Yeah, that road is I think it's the only way from Brooklyn to his home in Oakville. The quickest way, I guess.
Yeah.
Okay, so he's on that road a lot at that time.
Yeah, I'm sure both of them knew the road like the back of their hand. Those areas.
Mm-hmm.
Was it pretty common for Archer to just stop his truck, get out and grab, I'm assuming, a chainsaw to go in the wood to cut down, or an axe to go cut down wood? To cut wood?
I don't know about just pulling over and randomly doing it, because they had been cutting wood that morning.
And he had firewood in his truck at the time.
So, I don't know. It just seems weird that he would pull over to get more wood. I don't know.
No, so that information comes from his brother and his brother's girlfriend.
Yes.
And they're the ones that said his truck was here. Was it parked was it blocking the road, or was it off to the side?
It was slightly blocking the road.
Okay, because I'm assuming that if it was any more off to the side, it would be in the woods at that point.
Yeah.
Okay, and the door is open. Driver's side door is open?
Mm-hmm.
And they're the ones that said the driver's side door was open?
Yes.
Okay. And police showed up. Did they shut the door?
They actually ran their errands, came back, truck was still there. Earl moved the truck back to his house, and then later called police.
Okay.
So the only report that it was even on that road was from Earl?
Yes.
Mm-hmm.
So that begs the question if the truck was even there at all. We do have an eyewitness, right, guys, coming from, I think, Brooklyn, heading west on that road, who saw the truck But they also saw Earl and Rosa going the opposite way that they told police in their statement. So that's a little fishy. So the truck may have been there, but it might have been dumped.
Okay.
Yeah, very interesting witness there. I remember talking about this one in the first episode, Jen and Lance, and we are still not sure if Jameson is the first or last name, but interesting. Definitely could be a big piece of the puzzle. Actually, could have a big piece of.
Mm-hmm, for sure.
Where? How did this Wow. How did this witness even come to be a player in the entire story?
Do you want me to read it right here from research? I have, there's only a couple paragraphs here. It says, according to a statement made by police, a man referred to only as Jameson claimed to have been traveling Brooklyn Road between 1 and 2 p.m. Jameson says that he saw Earl's car, and the detective notes described Earl's car, and it was a match, traveling westbound. So Jameson says he saw Earl's car traveling westbound on Brooklyn Road toward Brooklyn. And after he saw Earl's car, he came upon Arch's truck. And then he stated that he returned westbound along Brooklyn Road between 5 and 6 p.m. and Arch's truck was no longer there.
And Nikki and Taylor, how did this information come to the two of you? Was it right off the bat? Was it early on, or was it later?
We have a couple papers, and that just happened to be one of the ones we had.
Like newspapers?
No, a couple of police papers.
Oh.
Yeah, handwritten notes.
So this is something that you went through. And okay, and you saw that this individual Jameson, I guess my confusion is, how did Jameson and the police even connect?
I think he probably just heard that Arch was missing and then thought, oh, hey, I saw them. And so then he let them know.
Right. And there's a little bit of a contradiction because Earl's statement that he and Rose were headed eastbound toward Oakville at that same time that Jameson claimed to have seen Earl and Rose. And so it could implicate Earl in a lie. Yeah.
Or Rosa. Right. Yeah.
I mean, I was just going to say, and otherwise, their story is kind of a little bit all over the place that day, if I'm not mistaken.
Very.
So we're not sure if Jameson is like somebody who lives in the town.
No.
Weird. See, this is why this case, this story of Archer's disappearance is so frustrating, because on the surface you hear that the car, his truck is there, the door's open, and it almost sort of goes in a direction. You can almost see it going in a direction, and then Jameson pops in, and there's no last name. There's just a report that's been handwritten, and there's almost no way to figure out who Jameson is and why Jameson even decided to come forward to say that Jameson might not even exist. I mean, he probably does, but I'm saying, like, those are the thoughts that can run through your head when you're looking into this, and that's just one of the elements that lends to the confusion of the whole thing, or what seemingly should be possibly an open and shut case. Now you have these elements that start taking you down different avenues. What was the relationship like between Earl and Archer and Rosa?
Well, all I know is secondhand, because I wasn't around a lot. I don't remember the last time I had seen him, but I think they were close, but they also could fight and argue a lot also. They had been known to drink, and sometimes you can turn into a different person. So, I mean, you would think at that point that things were good because they were cutting wood together, but I don't know. And when you said the thing about the Jameson, I would think he would live in the area. I mean, there's a lot of traffic on that road, but I think most of it is local. That's just my thought.
It's a great point, because how many times have you passed through an area? I mean, how many? On a whole, most people live in different areas. You know, Jen has lived in 15 different cities and small towns in the 4 months that she's been working. She's lived in like a hatch at one point. But no, what I'm saying is, like, most people, you know, if you don't really, I don't think you would really follow up with the police if you maybe heard something about a missing person.
Mm-hmm.
This person had to have known Archer, had to have at least seen his face on numerous occasions, so much to the point where they would go to the police and volunteer information.
Yeah.
What is a little strange about Jameson, I mean, short of the fact that police never got a first and last name and didn't notate that in their report, but Archer's truck was new, wasn't it?
Yes.
He had procured this truck just a week or so prior.
Yes.
So how would Jameson recognize that that was Archer's truck? Did he just recognize Earl's car and like thought it was connected somehow? Like, that's a big jump, you know?
Mm-hmm. Right.
Well, he might have heard the report. I mean, news at the time could have said something about the description of the car.
The car, yeah.
Or the vehicle.
That's true.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's
It
true.
was
And then
new to him. Okay, so it was a 65 Chevy C10, and Hunter is in the chat room. Hunter is Taylor's boyfriend, allegedly. So he says. So he claims.
He's just talking about this, I'm sure. He knows as much as I do.
No, he seems very, very enthusiastic about it, and complimentary too, of you and your work. So, and he makes a great point here. He says not only was the truck allegedly there, but there was an open beer can balanced on the seat, and the door open, keys in the ignition. Can you explain a little bit more about that? The beer can and the keys in the ignition.
I don't even really, I mean, that's just what we've been told.
I think it's pretty self-explanatory. I think Archer had worked all day, and there was beer around, and he was driving along and sipping on a beer.
Yeah.
Well, no, I think there's a lot more to it than that, because wasn't he given a couple of beer cans by Earl, and then one of them was there and one was gone? And this was not all day. This was like 11 in the morning or I want to say at noon or something like that. That happened.
Mm-hmm. It's also weird because if Earl moved the truck, if someone came upon the truck when it was parked where it was allegedly parked, would that beer can still have been there? Or when he brought it to his house, then was it put there?
Oh.
Right, exactly. Like, all the details we have are coming directly from Earl and Rosa about how the truck was left, because Jameson didn't stop his car and like look in it or whatever to corroborate that the keys were in the ignition or anything like that.
It's very interesting. See, my comment about him working all day was to indicate that this wasn't all day. It is interesting. And Hunter says Earl claimed to have given Archer 3 beers for the road. Is this typical?
I believe so, yes.
Okay.
Mm-hmm. And I think there was a thermos also, but I don't know if there was coffee in it or what, but yeah.
Well, Taylor, you said something interesting earlier, and please stop me if you don't want to talk about it at this point, but you guys did see pictures of the truck, right? And did the sheriff or the officer say anything that was off about like what Earl or Rosa had seen in the truck?
Yeah, he thought it was odd that Rosa kept going back and saying there was a thermos and gloves. Like it was really relevant. When there's a missing person out there, and the type of person that my grandpa was, gloves were pretty common. So he didn't see why that was so significant to her.
Her statement is full of like odd details, isn't it? So she has like, she's the one who said the thermos, the gloves, the keys, and I think she said something about the beer can too, right? But then she also recounted a lunch that she had with Archer, in which she said we had ham.
Yes.
Yeah.
Which is just a completely odd detail to throw in there.
Mm-hmm.
So when you're lying and you sometimes like throw in odd details to make it seem like you're not lying, but then that cues the person in to be like, oh, that's way too specific to be true.
Yeah.
That's how her statement reads to me.
Yeah, definitely. And even like the gloves were common. It sounds like with him, the beer and even the thermos were probably common things. So it's just kind of, they probably were always something in there, you know?
Mm-hmm.
Their driving route, Rose and Earl's driving route really kind of perplexed me because they were gone for hours, right? And really not going too far. I mean, they were running errands, I guess, but not going too far. But they were gone like, I want to say 4 or 5 hours or something like that, right?
Yeah. And what else did they do?
They got potatoes.
Yeah. Bags of potatoes and matches. And yeah, just their statements were odd.
Do you guys want to talk about the gas?
Sure. What?
You know more about that,
Yeah.
Jen.
I was so hung up on this detail.
Gas and ham, Jen.
Gas
Jen's all
and
about
ham.
it.
Don't get Jen started on gas and ham.
That's a great team here at PIs for the Missing. No, I found it super strange that, okay, so according to Earl's statement, he had driven down the road that Arch's truck had been abandoned on all the way into Oakville. And how far is that, guys? It's like 20 miles at most.
From where to where?
From his home in Brooklyn to Oakville.
Something like
Yeah,
that.
it seems like a lot longer because it's windy still, but
Right. It's slow going for sure on that road, I imagine.
Maybe-
So he stopped in.
Hunter with the 18 miles from Brooklyn to
18
Oakville.
miles.
Thank you, Hunter.
Wow, Hunter.
Wow. You're hired
You're hired.
and fired.
Oh, now he knows
Repeatedly.
25 miles an hour.
Wow. Fantastic. How come you didn't introduce me to your boyfriend? Anyway, so Earl and Rosa were going into Oakville and they stopped for gas. They got gas and they did a trip up to a few neighboring towns and did all these weird sort of errands. They got potatoes and something else, and then came back past Oakville onto a road that intersected with Brooklyn Road where Arch's truck was abandoned. He dropped Rosa off to wait for Arch. This was hours later. He dropped Rosa off at this intersection to strangely wait for Archer to come by, maybe, and then circled back and went all the way back into Oakville to get gas again, and then circled back again and got Rosa. Does that make any sense to you guys? No.
no.
No, I
Just playing devil's advocate. Small town, no cell phones. We're together. We're both seeing the same thing. Maybe if we split up and you stayed stationary and I did the mobile stuff, maybe we'll have a better chance of catching a glimpse of Archer. That's just me being devil's advocate.
It's possible. It's definitely possible. But if he needed gas that bad, like they passed Oakville to get to this place. So why wouldn't you just stop off for the 5 minutes it takes to get gas and then continue onward? If you were running out of gas, I mean, like why put so much extra mileage on your car?
And then they got gas a second time, right?
Yeah, that was the second time
That was the second time.
we got
Okay.
gas.
Yeah.
There's a floating pillow behind me.
Was there, do you know, and you probably have no way of knowing this, but just in case, was there like a sense of urgency or like an immediate need to find Archer? Or is he sort of someone who would just do something like this and kind of come around?
I don't think he would do that, but I also don't think they were really worried about it at first.
Yeah, because he was a woodsman and in the area, so
Oh, good point. Did they go into the woods to look for him? Do you know?
Yeah.
Okay.
Mm-hmm.
And obviously they came back and said that they didn't find him, and that was when they. Sorry if I'm confusing the details. That was when they went into town to look for him, or was that when they took his truck?
Oh, I was thinking of more search and rescue. That's what I was thinking.
Oh no, I meant like that moment when they saw the truck. Did they pull over and?
I don't think the first time. I think when they came back, then they may have
Looked around.
looked around and called his name, but not like a full-on search till like the next day.
Gotcha.
Right.
Did he keep?
And-
Oh, sorry. Go
Sorry.
ahead.
So apparently, like when they went back and saw that the truck was still there, that's when Earl moved the truck. Like he and Rosa split up. Rosa drove Earl's car, Earl drove Arch's truck back to their property. And then they turned around and went all the way back to Oakville, to Archer's house, and notified his wife at the time that Arch was still missing. And that's when they got the police involved, drove all the way back to Brooklyn and conducted a short search. What'd you say, guys?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, but obviously didn't find any trace of him.
Mm-hmm.
And this is the search that happened the night before you heard about it in the dentist chair, right, Nikki?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah.
So,
And-
do you know at what point the media was alerted to this? Must have been
I don't.
overnight, right?
Yeah. Maybe the next morning or something.
Yeah.
Because on the radio it was like the search is underway for missing Archer Johnson. That's kind of what it was.
And but during one of the searches, dogs were apparently given a scent item, a bandana, and got a hit on Archer's bandana. Or they found a bandana that was or apparently belonged to Archer. Was there any follow up on that?
No, I think they asked his wife, and she said that she thought it was his. They used it for like in their wedding or something. And yeah, I think back in the day, all the guys carried bandanas, from what I remember.
Any idea why he would have been out there if he wasn't didn't go missing out there? I guess.
I don't know. Who's to say it wasn't somebody else's bandana though too? I mean, I don't know.
Sorry to get hung up on this. It seems like a really mundane detail, but I'm trying to put it together in my head. Between Archer, Earl, and Rosa, and Archer not being at the car, and then they do their own sort of independent search. Who do you think alerted the media to this?
Hmm.
I mean, they might have a police scanner.
Yeah.
Police scanner that is monitored by like the local radio station or newspaper or like the press there.
And maybe once the police were contacted, then they got the word out to the media. I don't know.
Yeah. And then that call is more like, keep your eyes open for this gentleman who's missing. Okay.
Yeah.
I really think that, and I'm not saying anything that's groundbreaking here, but obviously the first 24, 48 hours is very important. And I'm just trying to untangle in my head how such a small community with such a quick response to his disappearance, how he wasn't found. So wherever he went or whoever did whatever to him did it in a matter of hours so effectively that he hasn't been found since 1986. In the face of that news getting out there so quickly. So I don't know if that leads to anything. I don't know if that leads to, hypothetically, he's taken to a location that is protected somehow. You know, like you can't, private property, you can't get on it immediately. Something like that.
Yeah.
So when you spoke to us about that and you said that about being in the dentist chair and hearing it, I don't think it really processed in my head until maybe earlier this week when we started talking about having you on the show. Then I started like rolling it around and I started thinking about it and how quickly that happened, but the turnaround wasn't the result of how quickly that happened. Does that make sense? Like that, as quickly as that went out there to the public, he should have been found.
Right. And I never really thought about that, but yeah, that's true. Especially back in the day. I mean, there was no social media, no cell phones. Yeah.
I just exhausted myself thinking of that, so I'm going to go on mute and take a nap.
We can only imagine he's not out there. I mean, I don't know what else to say. They brought dogs out there. Think? Yeah. What do you guys think?
I remember in one of the papers I read that the search and rescue people said if he had been where they searched, they would have found him. And that stuck out to me.
Right. I mean, it sounds like something so simple, but it's so obvious. If he was at the area where his truck was found and the door was open, indicating that he stepped out of the truck to do whatever beyond the road, beyond his truck, he would have been found because the search was extensive. And what else are they going to find out there? Right.
But I'll play devil's advocate, Lance. We hear this all the time.
Exactly.
Case. You know, she's around there. You know, people just haven't found her yet. It's like, oh, there's been like dozens of searches around that whole area. Well, this happens all the time. People step over bodies, and years later they'll find them. Just some hiker will randomly find her. We've heard this for years and years, and I do believe it's true too. But I'm not saying it's true in Archer's case or Maura's case. I definitely don't believe it's true in Maura's case. And I don't know about Archer's case. But I guess how thick are those woods, too, I guess is maybe a long-winded question.
I always thought from back when this happened that eventually somebody logging, somebody hunting was going to come across his remains, because that happens, you know. But I think because it's been so long now and because it's all been logged, I think that would have happened. You know, just that's kind of how I thought that it would have happened, that it, you know, but he's hidden very well.
Yeah. I mean,
that's a really important thing to note there, Nikki, that the area has been heavily logged
right.
that time. So
yeah.
They would have found something.
Yeah. And it's all Weyerhaeuser owned, which is pretty much a lot of the places around here. And, you know, we've looked up the records and it's been logged since 1986.
Yeah.
And explain the process of logging, because what I'm picturing is trees being cleared out, temporary roads being laid down for trucks to go out there, mass amounts of human beings with equipment going into clear areas out so that trees can be cut down, loaded onto trucks that drive on those temporary roads out. I mean, am I pretty close to how logging works?
Yes. I mean, we see log trucks all the time. I mean, it's just, and like right over the bridge from where we live is Weyerhaeuser, and there's logs all over. I mean, it's just stuff you see all the time around here.
And nothing of Archer's was found anywhere in that area. Has anything of his belongings that was on his personal self found anywhere?
No.
Any sightings?
Nothing at all.
No one's come forward with a sighting of Archer in Las Vegas.
No. There was in the beginning, a search with the psychic who said somebody was in California and all that. I don't believe that.
Well, we should follow
Wait,
up immediately with that.
You talked to a psychic?
What?
You talked to a psychic?
I didn't.
Oh, okay.
But in the beginning of when he disappeared, somebody hired one or somebody, and
They will come out of the woodwork.
yeah,
They certainly will.
Yeah.
We have strong feelings here at PIs for the Missing.
We rely heavily on psychics.
We love psychics.
Solely.
Yeah.
Solely.
That's our first go-to.
If there's a psychic over a police report, we'll take the psychic. Sorry.
Not true.
There was something that we spoke about in our interview. I forgot the name of what it's called. The little like pull off in the road.
spur.
Can walk us through the spur, because that was really interesting.
Is Hunter still on?
Yeah, Hunter knows more than we do.
Great. I'll pop off real quick if Hunter wants to hop on here.
No, I'll go.
No, I'll go.
Just
No,
chat.
I'll go.
I'll go. Let's all of us go.
I'll go. We'll all go at
We'll
the
all
same
go.
time.
Well, let's find out if Hunter wants to come on. Or
Oh, okay, there you go. He just said.
Okay. He says a spur is just like a small branch in the road.
Like a pull-out area.
okay, like a pull off, like a little.
Made to go down to a clearing. Okay.
Okay.
Yeah.
I'll
Okay.
hop
So what
off.
about the
I'll hop off
spur?
right now. Sorry.
Shaped like a rest area on the freeway. Oh, okay. That now I got it in my head. Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So it's kind of like a little curvature, I guess. So you could turn around if you need to. Okay.
Yeah.
And
Hunter's
so
great.
why? So I really am going to pop off in a minute, but I want to ask the question: why is that spur interesting as far as the investigation goes?
Because that's where his truck was found.
Well, yeah, it was near a spur. But
Yeah.
then I think that the police had seen some tire tracks on that spur. They didn't match them at all to Arch's truck, but they thought that maybe his wife, I'm totally blanking on her name at this moment. They thought that maybe when she went out for the search the next morning that she had pulled down that spur. But they were trying to like follow some sort of trail. So they're, I guess, toying with some options if it was Arch's truck or if it was, his wife's car.
Mm-hmm.
Hunter did not get on.
So was Archer's truck found in that pull off?
Slightly on it.
Slightly
From
on
what-
it.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. But not in it.
No, like just
Half.
yeah.
Okay.
Partial.
So if he had decided to pull off to the side of the road to go into the woods and collect wood, why wouldn't he pull directly in that spur to keep him off the road?
Mm-hmm.
Furthermore, why is it even a topic of conversation? Because like this information is coming from Earl and Rosa, right? That his truck was found right next to this place that he should have pulled into if he intended on getting out of the car and leaving it there, right?
Yeah. And why wouldn't you shut the door?
And take your keys.
Yeah, I don't know. I mean,
It's all very confusing to me. Hunter's on. Maybe he can clear some of this up.
Yeah, I would love to hear some of this. Hunter, can you hear us? Let's see, are you there, Hunter?
The
So is it-
anticipations.
There for a second, and it looks like there he is.
There he
How's
is.
it
I'm here.
going, Hunter?
Good.
How
How
are
are you
you?
guys?
Doing great. Thanks for joining us.
Sorry, I was kind of trying to get my camera plugged in. What were you guys curious about? I just heard the tail end of it.
Oh, I was just very curious about this. Thanks for joining us, by the way.
Yeah, no problem.
No, I'm just very curious about this spur. When we first spoke with Taylor and Nikki, it was something that we spoke about, and there were tire tracks on it, and we were, trying to not figure out, but we were discussing whether or not these tire tracks had anything to do with it. But what really confuses me is if Archer pulled off to the side of the road intending to stop for a purpose, for any reason, to go to the bathroom, to cut down a wonderful tree that he saw, why is he not utilizing that spur?
So I was actually really curious about the same thing when Taylor was first starting to get interested in this. And we had a hand-drawn map of where Earl supposedly said the truck was. I actually got on Google Maps and was trying to map everything out. And I believe I found the exact coordinates that made the most sense based off of Earl's map. And our first trip to Brooklyn, it was just actually me and Taylor, and we drove out and found this spot that we are pretty sure is the spur that the truck was supposedly located at. And it was a pretty big turnout, to be honest with you. I don't see how it would be too pertinent as far as the turnout would be. I mean, the location I thought it ended up being was a big turnout with a road going down the hill into a clearing where they would have been cutting trees down and hauling them out on log trucks.
Noticeable is this spur?
It's really obvious. There's the one we found that I'm pretty sure it was on a sharp blind corner, which I mean could tie into some theories that people have had. And it was about probably 3 times as wide as the road was on both ends. And there was off of a perfect perpendicular down the hill was the road that would have been the spur mentioned.
Okay. So for someone to have driven by it or denied knowledge of it, someone who drives that road often sounds a bit peculiar to me, because that is what Earl said. Apparently, Earl said that he denied even knowing that the spur was there.
I mean, for those guys who lived out there for so long and drove that road between Brooklyn and Oakville so often, considering that it would take you 45 minutes almost to drive between Brooklyn and Oakville on the Brooklyn-Oakville road versus the 2.5 hours either other way, I personally doubt his statement that he did not know the existence of this spur.
Interesting. So what does that tell us?
This is just my personal opinion. I mean,
Right.
I don't have much to base this off of, but I have been in the camp since pretty much the beginning that the truck was planted or was never actually there.
And then somebody knows more to the story.
Yeah.
And then that brings us back to the witness, Jameson, who claimed that the truck was there.
Since there's no information on this guy, there's no information on how he came to the police. I am not honestly, I'm not sure that he was a real person or someone didn't tell him to go say something or something like that.
I'm going to go with you on this. I don't even know if he's a real person. Is this just a phone call that the cops got?
That's kind of what I'm thinking. And someone has said this in a comment on one of the videos that once I saw it, I was like that. In a case about alcoholics, an eyewitness named Jameson kind of sticks out a little bit.
Yeah, it kind of sounds like someone made the phone call. They asked the name, and they looked around and saw the bottle of Jameson and was like, Jameson.
Yeah. I mean, it could have been me calling and saying my name was Jack Daniels. It would be the same thing.
That'd be a little more obvious.
Yeah, I mean, you couldn't.
My name's Jim Beam. Whoops.
Yeah, exactly.
Oh my. Oh, well.
Good points there.
That mystery solved.
Yeah.
Wow. I know it sounds like we're just like digging up like real minute minutia, you know, but it's important because if they knew that road, if it's like one of the only roads, it's a small town, they know the behavior patterns of, he knows the behavior pattern of his brother. Like, why would that even be a thing? Like it doesn't. It's not an equation.
None of it adds up to me.
Yeah, and it's really the whole picture put together. You know, one discrepancy here is like, oh, okay, maybe someone got that wrong or whatnot, but the whole thing is just a bit peculiar.
The other part of it is, I mean, Earl's first statement to the police was recorded. The whole thing was written down. 2 weeks later, I believe it was, they brought him in and interviewed him again, and his story was almost totally different from the first time. And that was mentioned in, I believe, a follow-up report or something.
Yeah, I remember one of the detective notes put a question mark and said he didn't say this before. And then he kind of went back to his first story.
And he redacted some statements out of his first interview and all kinds of weird stuff.
Is there any theory written down or any, I guess, account of an argument that might have taken place beforehand, or any reason why harm would come to Archer?
I imagine they probably had their moments, and if you mixed in drinking, maybe they got in an argument, or you know, my dad was known. Maybe he got in an argument with somebody else, and you know, they took matters into their own hands. I think somebody did something of foul play, and somebody knows more out there. And they need to get it off their chest.
Yeah, I think that's important to note. I think it's important to note that not only for you, your family, to have some answers, the person who may be responsible will probably feel a whole lot better. I mean, there'll be repercussions, but like settle sounds really corny, but settle your soul. Like, like come to terms with something that you've done. Living with guilt like that is, I can imagine, really sort of like a killer. You know, it's like just eating away and eating away. But man, we really feel for you. Anything we can do, you know, you know, we're here for you, and Michelle, Jillian, Jen, like the whole team's here for you. Once again, we've gone over our hour allotted time. You're welcome to come back anytime.
We appreciate everything you guys have done, and Jen. I mean, it's been huge. And Bruce, like, shout out to Bruce too.
Thank you. Yes, big shout out to Bruce.
Yeah, Bruce is like the quiet savior on a farm in the countryside who just does things because he wants to make sure that things are right in the world.
Yeah, he's been so helpful to me just in my own emotions and feelings.
Well, that is really great to hear. Have you spoken with him?
Yeah, we've talked once a week or so on the phone. And it just, he helps validate how I feel. And I don't know, it's just, you guys have been, I'll say this, even if we don't get to the bottom of it, you guys have been helpful. I mean, just, I guess I feel like I'm not alone.
Good.
Well, that is great to hear. Yeah. That's news to us, by the way. I did not know that you and Bruce spoke. I mean, that's how many sort of moving parts there are to PIs for the Missing. And everyone's got a goal, and they're working on it. And we don't even hear about it all. So it's really awesome when we actually hear something like that. That warms my heart. Yeah. Check out investigationsforthemissing.com.
.org.
Yeah.
Jillian was right on that. He said .org. Well, all too often, and it's really not a fault at all. It's actually just one of the strengths of people who exist in this community in our world here. The investigation becomes the priority because you want to find out, right? It's a challenge, and you want to try to make these people happy, these people being family members like yourself. But that's the other side that we don't know about, that Tim just said, like, we didn't know that part. That is just as, if not more important, because you're still the living person. You're still the living people who have to deal with this every single day. It's the secondary, I wish there was another word for this, because I don't want to call you victims, but it is the secondary victim effect, and it shouldn't be happening anymore. If you can't get the answers for the person who you're looking for, then at least you can get some solace and some empathy and some support from people who have been there before. And I mean, Bruce might be calling everyone we deal with every night and giving everything to them, because that makes him feel better too. That gives him a purpose as well.
Yeah, and I had never talked to anyone else who had someone close to them missing. So it was like, and especially now through all this, I mean, there's so many missing people, and people don't really understand until you go through it, and so it's all been so amazingly helpful.
That's good. That's excellent to hear.
Yeah.
One last thing on my end. What was Hunter's hat? Because I want that hat. What was he wearing for this? Hunter, what was your hat? It was great. Oh, he said he can get one.
Oh, jeez, can get you one.
Yeah, we'll ship you one out.
What is it?
I don't know. What's on it, Hunter?
It is a bar in Ellensburg where I live.
We'll get you one.
Oh, just show me where to. The nodding donkey. Okay, I love that. Nodding donkey. That's great. Okay, well, I will go to the. I'll go to the merch section on their website.
Very cool. Well, Hunter, Nikki, Taylor, Johnson, and Jenna Mel, thank you so much for joining us here on the show tonight. And thank you to everyone in the chat room here on Get Vocal, anyone watching on Twitter, on Facebook, or on YouTube. We really appreciate it. We will be back live here, same time, same place next week, here 9 p.m. on Get Vocal. Thank you very much. We will keep in touch, Nikki and Taylor. We need to see where this goes. This is such a promising, some great leads on this case at this point.
Definitely. Thank you, guys.
Thank you.
Very cool. Thank you so much. And thanks to everyone watching right now. We really appreciate it.
Except the ones who didn't come over here. Just kidding. No, we appreciate everything.